Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Influencer Show, where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, T7, and today we have a very special guest for us. We have Sir Joe Madu. So if you'd like to pretty much introduce yourself, tell listeners a little bit about you, and simply why you do what you do.
Thank you so much, Mr. T7. Yes, it's my first time hearing that, Mr. Trishan Ben Salmi, and it is a pleasure really to be invited by you, and it's an honor, as a matter of fact, and I hope all is well in London. My name is Sir Joe Madu, and I serve as the president of the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce, and also director for international content and communication for 360 Wise Media in the United States. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And why don't you share with the listeners why you do what you do?
First and foremost, before I could answer that question, let me get you up to speed as to what I do. Okay, in addition to being the gatekeeper for the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce, and also being a gatekeeper for contents and communication for 360 Wise Media, I also am a father of 2 boys and 2 girls. Yes, Andrea, Noble, Jennifer, and Michael. And their ages range from 30 to 22. And except Jennifer and Michael, who are 3 years apart, the rest are 2 years apart. And I'm also a husband to a beautiful lady, Priscilla Madu. And in addition to, let me get those fundamentals out of the way. Obviously, I'm an uncle and a cousin and a nephew and a brother-in-law to many folks across many continents. Okay, I'm also a community leader. And by leadership, I really mean a public steward who is interested in extending themselves to bring about the desired change within our communities. Now, let me bring it home as to what I do internationally that could be of significance. Definitely, I've mentioned about being a conduit for trade and investment, and also holistic human capital optimization as the president of the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce. In addition, within the last 3 or 4 months, I've been able to also rejig my thinking and bring about what I call the global United Voices for Economic Empowerment. Definitely, as time goes on, hopefully I will have more opportunity to explain to you what the global diaspora, United Voices for Economic Empowerment, stands for and does and how it's defined. Hopefully that will bring clarity as to what I do.
That is absolutely amazing. I definitely do agree. That's absolutely amazing. It definitely does have a huge impact. And what would you say has been like the biggest influence on you that you wish you had known sooner?
In fact, right now is you. So just because you're never too old to sweat when you have a 15-year-old, having a conversation of this magnitude that is probably being witnessed by not only you, T7, but also by many other folks that are teenagers and also millennials, and is not just locally, but across the Atlantic and globally by extension. Considering that you guys are the masters of the social media, and you have the tools within the tip of your fake fingernails. So so I am really very, very intrigued. Influences, of course, besides you right now is my belief in God and my Creator, and that starts that. When it comes to human influence, my grandmother of great and cherished memory was a superhuman influence. And when it comes to public figures that I so much believed in their core doctrine and what they stood for, you can go as way back as the great leaders of empires, in Africa, from Mali, or to as recent as great leaders like Martin Luther or Muhammad Ali. Great influences in my thinking, in core beliefs, and obviously besides those old leaders, current leaders, includes my wife, who is a prayer warrior.
No, definitely that is powerful, especially just like having those role models and just those people who you see those traits and you'd really like to adopt and just emulate them in as many ways as possible in different areas of your life, really, because then definitely gives you that something to constantly work towards. And what would you sort of like say people could do to stay motivated during moments of crisis?
In fact, crisis is a part of living. As a matter of fact, one of the most important things is, first of all, to define crisis. Because when you define crisis as abnormal, it becomes a problem. But when you define crisis as an opportunity, it becomes an opportunity. We need to bear in mind that, go back to creation. We are created on this planet to have dominion over all creations, except God and what God and whom God made in his own image, which is fellow human beings. So therefore, people misinterpret the dominion as the word is a jungle, or is the rule of the jungle. No. When he created humanity, he said, you, as a plural, should have dominion over the rest of the creation. Okay, and you come to find out that when you understand this and understand some of the words in the scriptures, in the holy books, including the Holy Bible and the Quran and what have you, you come to find out that our Creator wants to give us rest, which implies that actually there's no rest under the sun. There is no rest under the sun, because it's a life of struggle and effort, and it's not about perfection. Doesn't exist under the sun. Therefore, when you understand this and understand that all the trials and tribulations, all the bumps along the road in life, you accept it as part inherently embedded in your creation and as part of life, it makes it much easier. So bearing that in mind, I always look at crisis as not beyond our reach, considering that the Creator has given us all the resources within our reach to solve that problem. The key thing is this: even if you look at the histories, whether it is you look at the Persian Wars, the Carthaginian Wars, Tunic Wars, 1, 2, 3, and what have you, or even go back and look at the story of David and Goliath, or look at even Moses and the Red Sea and all that. All the tools that is needed to succeed are within our reach. Sometimes, though, it doesn't click until we see, oh, could you believe it? The pebbles that David used to do the slingshot, did it just happen, or was it there even when Goliath came and those 11 brothers who were shivering were still there? The pebble was there. Did they have eyes? They had eyes. But did they see it? Yes, they probably saw it. But did they correlate with it? They did not. Resources for our success has already been created. So really, it's opportunities, not crisis.
Yeah, I definitely agree in so many areas. I think it's definitely just about simply like your resourcefulness, because then you may have as many resources available to you, but if you're not actually utilizing them, if you're not actually putting them to work, especially in the right way, then it's actually going to come back and actually hinder upon the things that you're able to do and just limit your options, really. So it's just about simply, as I said, resourcefulness and just utilizing everything that you have available to you now so that it can then multiply and simply compound into more in the future.
In fact, just to step in as to what you're referencing is it is about we. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are around you are great resources. You see, creation, God loves all of us equally. Or even if you don't believe in God, nature is fair. Okay. But one thing is, we are not gifted equally. We are gifted distinctively. This is why the orange is not the banana. I can never be as handsome as 70. 70, you're the man. I can never be as young as you. And vice versa. You can never be as bald-headed, or you can never be as old as I am. Are you getting me? So everybody is unique. This is why when we understand this, there'll be no room for jealousy. And they will also realize that it's about we collaborating to work together, Remember, it cannot work together when there's a big variance. You know, when you are, look at it, even with intimacy with God, you want to have a close relationship with him. Even living under the same roof with your siblings does not really correlate to intimacy. Are you getting me? You got to have that understanding. So it's very, very important. All the resources ahead of you, in front of you, below you, you bring them close. Whether it's the demarcation or the variance is in age, in geography, bring them close. Luckily for us, when it comes to geographical divide, we have technology. Just like we are leveraging technology right now to bring ourselves close. But bringing ourselves closer physically, or bridging the gestational variance, or generational variance, or resource variance, or cerebral variance, okay, the issue becomes when people start thinking they can live in isolation. They think they're on this planet to do their own thing. Nobody, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is relative, including there's no white without black. There's no tall without short. Okay, remember now I said everything. I didn't say some things. I am very affirmative to that, and it's a debate I'm ready to take.
No, it's definitely powerful, especially how each and every last one of us are connected in so many ways, but then our uniqueness is just how we are then able to sort of fill in that piece of the puzzle, really. I definitely think that each and every last one of us play a huge, huge role in simply just like the bigger picture as a whole. And like, if you were to, let's say, have a megaphone and you could say one thing to the world that have a lasting influence, what would it be and why?
I thank you so much, but you are very, very economical. You're so restrictive, and I know where this comes from. Trying to have me say one thing. No, I don't say one thing. Considering that I believe in the plural component. Now, the only thing I can say is, what is it that I will say to the world? And to me, the world begins with our children. Same thing will be like you asking me, what will I say? What have I said? For the last 30 years. My oldest is 30. What have I been saying to them? The same thing I will say to the world. Because you cannot give what you don't have. And if what I have given to them has been treasured and cherished and is yielding result, believe me, don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, it's okay to continue to jerry-rig it and all that, but if it's yielding, if the banana tree is yielding the fruit, continue to nourish it. If the orange tree is yielding, continue to fertilize it. So I would say the same thing here is you have to have purpose and reason for your existence. Don't just be here because of happenstance. After all, nobody knew where and what they were before they were born. And it took 3 or 4 years before you can even realize who you are. But you got to, as a teenager, as an adult, you have to be able to define your uniqueness and why you are here. That's when you know why you're here. You will do the same thing that banana and orange tree do. You plant the orange seed, and guess what? It will strive to grow to be an orange tree that you can harvest oranges from. Therefore, essence of our existence is about knowing who we are, defining our uniqueness in this entire ecosystem, in the spectra of ecoexistence. We are unique. There's none like us. Orange is orange. Now, when you know that, you strive to be fruitful. Remember, it didn't say you strive to eat the fruit. You might be eating the fruit somebody else planted. But your job, your existence is about being fruitful with your gift, with your talent, with your relationship, optimizing it, maximizing it, doing the very best you can. Remember, whether you go by the Bible or the Quran or the holy books written, even if you don't go by any of those, just look at the ants, look at the trees. They obey the same principles of existence. Look at your grandparents. They sacrificed that you may acquire education. They did not go to school. They might not have known how to read and write. But guess what? They sacrifice. Sometimes even by the time you can read and write, they are no longer there to enjoy it. So the essence of planting a seed is not for you to harvest. It will be harvested, but it might not be you. Number two, you got to be able to really believe that you are only an instrument. The reason being, you did not create yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're tall or short, fine or not fine, and what have you, live in London or don't live in London. And remember the uniqueness of existence, and you're not in isolation. You got to understand, you got to fully understand that this uniqueness has to be optimized. Okay, credibility, realizing that the journey, you talked about challenges and what have you earlier. Okay, remember, success or perfection is nothing but work in progress. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some people think that, oh yeah, I'm going to be perfect. Or now that I have made $1 million, now that I have, wonderful kids, I have achieved, I have arrived, and that's the end of. No. Even that begins another journey. It's a continuous process and never really ends. Okay. Remember to be selective. You have the opportunity in life to make a choice. That's one thing God has given us. One of your siblings is a master of, you got to make a choice. You can turn right or left. You can make a U-turn. You can sit down or stand up. You have all that freedom. Remember, any decision has ramifications. Think through things. It doesn't matter. And that's one thing God will never take away from us, and nobody can take away from you to make independent decisions. But remember, you are responsible for that. What I'm echoing to you right now is really what I have echoed to my kids and my young adults. As a matter of fact, now I am more like retired. They have become the ones to father me, to advise me, to guide me. And I'm not joking. Mr. Noble is good at this. So, and I have submitted, humbly, to what I call the new fruit of the seed. Even though the old seed that was planted years ago that grows into the tree is about to be forgotten. And many of us, that. Who remembers the seed that was planted from the orange you're eating? Nobody cares about that seed. And believe me, anything under the sun will also be part and parcel of that vanity.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely just like, it's so very powerful and just important in so many different ways, especially now more than ever. Something that people should definitely take on board, just become aware of the fact that there's just a wide variety and just how to then utilize and apply teachings in many different areas of their life, really. Because like one teaching at first you may learn something new and you may think you're just able to apply this to maths, English, but then you're then able to understand how everything then intertwines into one another, and you're able to link those teachings, utilize them in many different ways to not only get a deeper understanding, but also just to actually take a new perspective, just look at things in a new light, really. And what would you say has been like what would you say has been like the top 3 lessons that you have learned along your life, and how have they influenced where you look at life?
I thank you so much. I would, one of the top 3 lessons I would say is the number one was the one shared generously and unconditionally by my grandmother who raised me. Okay, and that was centered on, first of all, believing yourself. And from that instruction, one thing she gave that really influenced me a lot was positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement. It's almost like when you pour the manure around that young orange tree, you got to have a positive expectation. Because if you don't, buying and pouring them in you. You better have positive. So did our Creator. He wanted us to increase and multiply and be fruitful. He had positive expectations. Okay? The Great Expectations is a book, but I'm talking about positive expectations. Reinforcement, very, very critical. Because for some reason, what you think and what you utter ends up becoming a reality, because creation was made by words. Let there be, and so it was. So having said that, number three, I will also say, for example, we are really here to serve God. But guess what? I don't have his address. Sometimes I try to look for his phone number, but he changes every second because life is dynamic. And when you look around, you come to find out, you forget that when he created us in his own image, according to the holy books. Therefore, we are small gods. So that number three is, you got to treat other human beings as if they were gods, because they are. Would you hate a god? Would you try to kill a god? Would you like to cheat a god? And this is why sometimes it doesn't matter what we do. And remember, this is not any sense of self-justification. Nobody is perfect. It's a journey of struggles.
Exactly.
But the key thing is this. This is why it doesn't matter what we do or what we say, in the light of the day, in the darkness of the night, and nobody sees us. But guess who sees us? Ourselves and our conscience.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't look like Sir Joe Madu or T7. Are you getting me? But his existence is in our spirit. That's why he's not black or white. So he's in the trees. He's in everywhere. His existence in everywhere. So it's very, very important to think holistically. The only way to have honor and respect to God is by having honor and respect to his humanity. That's number three.
No, I think those are some key points that you touched on there, especially just about like being able to treat your neighbor as you want to be treated, really, because like treat your neighbor as yourself, really, and just by doing so, you're then able to vibe on a higher level and just encourage others to then take that step up to the next level with you, really. I think that's definitely something that is so important, but yet so overlooked. And by doing so, people were able to bring things into their life in a way that they never believed possible. And you spoke briefly at the start about the global diaspora. And why don't you share to listeners a bit more in depth as to what it is and different things like that?
I do appreciate you. So I wish I were this young and this sharp to remember things. Sometimes some of these things will skip through my memory. But as you can see, you are more organized. And this is why it's so critical that the young and old, we must close generational gap. Because if we don't, we really we are losing some of our resources. The Global Diaspora, United Voices for Economic Empowerment, is basically one of those manifestations of what we believe in. So it's almost like ideas and the dreams. How do you turn the dream of Joseph into reality? All these things we're talking about, they're all words and abstract, and they are really in abundant supply. Adam Smith will tell you that the supply is probably more than the demand. That's why there is not that special. Having a dream and an idea is not that special. It's implementation that is special. Now, our definition of diaspora is 99.9% of our creation. Because you see, life by itself is dynamic. Yeah. I want you to know to hopefully after this, you can Google how many times in a day you shed your skin, which basically you are not the same 5 minutes ago. But we are changing, whether you call it metamorphosis or what have you. Okay, the world doesn't stand still, including the components of the world, including us. So having said that, everybody has moved from one place to the other, whether we all started out in Botswana, according to the generic studies, or what have you, it doesn't matter. But it's generally accepted that humanity, the cradle of civilization, is Mother Africa. So diaspora is not just folks from Nigeria that live in London, or live in US or what have you, or in China, or folks from Uganda that live in the identified countries. It is really all humanity. I'm telling you. And if they go back again, whether they think they're from Germany and they are the president of a country in the US, but if they go back to Germany, then Germany will take them back to Africa, which basically means we're all diasporas. So when all the diaspora is united with one voice, we want them not only to leverage their asset they have acquired locally. Remember, with our current dispensation, everything local is also global.
Yeah.
Because local is part of global. What is good for you in Sierra Leone, in Guinea, in Liberia, 4 or 5 years ago during Ebola, had ramifications and impact in New York City, in London, Johannesburg, and the rest of the world. Whatsoever is local is also global. If we can identify all these assets, remember, we are all equally loved but uniquely gifted.
Yeah.
Bring that gift, aspire to take it to the global level to have the greatest impact. Whether it is your seed you're planting, let it harvest to the optimal capacity. And then you leverage those seeds of which you might not even be the beneficiary to empower those who are not equally gifted. It's not even to give it to them free. It's to empower them and to multiply the impact. Now, for the glory, again, of our Creator. You see, why this is so peculiar is for over 400 years, some parts of the world been marginalized and been treated. People who have done this have not even understood God or their own creation. They start thinking that other human beings are their enemies or what have you. And they start dominance. They have to have dominion over human beings. You cannot do that. The only person who would have dominion over human beings is God. And the only person who in the Holy Book ever played God was Lucifer. So human beings should not play God. So having said this, Global Diaspora United Voices for Economic Empowerment is a place that we're going to leverage to aggregate resources that can be taken to the global level and have the greatest impact, and most importantly, to be leveraged to empower economically self-sufficiency in those that are less privileged.
That's absolutely amazing. I don't think that's something that, like, as we spoke about on the call, just about how needed this is, something that people need to awake to the fact of just how much is happening around them, because it's pretty much like crisis after crisis, where people aren't actually waking up and just seeing what's in front of them. Like they say that it's better to hide things in plain sight, and I totally agree with that. And now it's just simply about just giving people those hints that are then able to simply knock down that facade and simply see what's in front of them, actually act accordingly, so that they don't have to struggle for generations to come, really.
In fact, what you are doing now to me is so noble, and that's one of my first son's name is Noble. Nobility is really to understand that your wealth is not about money. Okay, I understand that we go through stages through, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all that. At my age, definitely, I've come to realize since I haven't made the money for the last 60 years, I'm not going to make it now. So it doesn't motivate me anymore. Okay? And again, money, when it's all said and done, is really one of the most useless treasures, because all it can really do is provide shelter over our head and food in our belly and a car to ride. And so if you have that, then that means you have money. So why keep laboring yourself for money when you already have money? But nobility and wealth goes way back again to go on planting those seeds that will harvest from generation to generation. Okay, so having said that, I commend your age, your strength, your sacrifice to be able to really be a leader amongst your peers, whereby you are going to motivate them, bring the older folks into play, so that the wisdom of the old does not end up in the grave. It can be passed along and be leveraged from generation to generation. And also, you cannot do this alone. And as a matter of fact, one of the most important things now is I would like to tell all the youth listening is to rally around you, rally around your siblings, aggregate together. You'll be amazed that nobody will underestimate the power of the scale.
No, it's definitely mind-blowing, really. I don't think that's, like, just as I spoke about earlier, just about how coming together we are simply stronger as opposed to standing alone, really, and just simply actually work on things like generational wealth, generational knowledge, just things that you don't have to pass down besides money, because if you don't have the money, if you don't have the knowledge in place, then it's not actually going to last there. It's not actually going to stay there for long, really. Like talking about different things, like how mentors come into play and different things like that. Like, for instance, when people are like winning the lottery and things like that, a couple of years after they're actually back to where they started, there, nothing's really changed apart from simply like they might have had a lot of money in their bank, a lot of money in their bank at one point in their lives. But it's simply about understanding that if it's not right up here, it's not going to make a difference about what's happening externally, because the internally things aren't in place to then provide that sense of security. It's just that everything needs to run smoothly. And what would you like? Could you share some advice for those who may be simply starting something, a new venture, and just simply lacking that motivation?
I thank you so much. That question is very critical because you're bringing me back to my responsibility as the president of the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce and big advocate for holistic human capital optimization. Because when you go to our website, that's what you will see. And that's our differential. Every Chamber of Commerce, they do the same thing. It's, being a conduit for trade and investments. But one thing they don't do is also understanding the human capital is the most treasured of all capitals. Okay. So bearing that in mind, I will always, as I advocate, and I will invite the young folks listening, either through your connection, T7, or through, I make myself available to share my knowledge when it comes to starting from the embryonic stage of starting a business, even if you're in Russia, in Sweden, in UK, or what have you. Remember, what is local is global. Okay, and this is the advantage we have, and we have the tools within our reach to make that happen. So you can scale up, geometrically than any other generation that ever existed. So that's doable. Nothing is really impossible if you put your mind to it. Number 2 is preparation, packaging, and remember, the secret to nourishing and sustaining relationship is integrity. I didn't say it's perfection. It's be as much as possible to be consistent, that let the words of your mouth and the meditations of your heart, let it be consistent. Okay? Because there's nothing wrong in telling that guy who asks you for $10,000, say, I don't have it, and even if I had it, I wouldn't give it to you. Be as much as possible. The reason being, you have other priorities. So that's what makes leaders. I always use the ant scenario in leadership. Think about it. Everybody is not a leader, but we all have what it takes to lead at different levels. A million ants are walking down the path. Number 3 is following number 2. Number 4 is followed by number 5. Number 1 is followed by number 2. Who is number 1 following? Okay, number 1 is the one that really manifests the essence of creativity. He manifests the best of the gift of innovation. And remember, the number 1 innovator and creator is our creator himself. But he made us in his own image for us to duplicate that effort of leveraging innovation. Have the fundamentals if you're young. STEM and STEAM and all these things are sine qua non, things you cannot do without. when it comes to thinking innovatively. Remember again, focus with minimal distractions. The reason being is you have a choice. You can think about what the rest of the world is doing, and it could be what number 4, number 5, number 6 is doing. But if you want to be the leader, where do you get your clue? Are you getting me? Okay. Number 1 is the one that leads them to the stream, leads them to pasture, green pastures, leads them to safety, protects them, and so on and so forth. So again, define where you want to be. Do you want to be number 1 or number 3? And remember, it doesn't matter. They still work together as the million line of ants. So please, having said that, I will advise young and old, if you do not know, please don't hesitate to ask. The worst answer could be no. Ask again. Ask somebody else. And at this moment in time, please feel free to ask me. I'll give you my widow's mite.
That is absolutely amazing. I think that's definitely just really amazing. I think it really did touch there quite deeply, especially just about the difference between potential and actually utilizing it, because especially in today's day and age, especially in my generation, loads of us, we are told how much potential we have, and many people actually tend to just sit on that potential, and then they wonder why things aren't working out in their life and other things around that. But it's actually about putting that potential to good use so that you're then able to, as you said, utilize that knowledge, utilize just your resources for the next generation as well as yourself, really. Like, potential is amazing and all, but if you're not actually constantly trying to improve, then it's constantly just going to stay as that potential throughout the rest of your life. So it's about putting it to work so it can then improve and grow over time. And simply just learning how we can then collaborate and then work together, because then by doing so, it just makes the journey just a whole lot easier. And yeah, definitely. And what would you sort of like say are your views on the word legacy? And what legacy would you like to leave?
Oh, this is wonderful, because when you get to the 60s and 70s and all that, people should again not so much concentrating on their basic needs. Because as a matter of fact, they eat less, and they probably buy a new suit once in a year, when their spouses will buy it for them, because people are no longer as demanding or believing so much in vanity. Again, because we think about legacy and all that, as for whatever that means, is we have to go back to, again, what is our purpose here in life? To give honor and glory to our Creator. And the best way you can do that is by being a steward of His creation. So if that can be, and the legacy to me is planting the seed, really. It's not really to be remembered, because reality is this, that you can only remember, the original seed that is yielding the biggest harvest. You might not even remember that seed. After 1 or 2 generations, nobody will remember them. But the point is this, that legacy is setting that fruitful endeavor in motion and let it flow wherever it may be, whether it is in my children, whether it is in you, T7, whether it is in your brother, Ambassador, Paulo, whether it is in your sisters, or whether it is in your little brother, Amir, whether it is in another young fellow listening right now. He didn't say plant the seed only in your farm. He didn't say plant the seed only to benefit you. So the legacy I would like to leave is for people to understand, share your good seeds, plant it, nourish it. You might not harvest it. It might not feed you. It might not even feed your family, but it might feed others. But remember, others are God's creation. Therefore, doing that is serving God.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely couldn't agree anymore. And where can the listeners find you if they like to find out about any upcoming things that you may have?
I think I can be reached. Number one place I can be reached now is through you. So all they have to do is reach out to T7. Yes, Treshawn Ben Salmi will be the best place to reach me. Number 2, you could reach me through Africa at globaldiasporaeconomicempowerment.com. You could also reach me through my personal email, Sir Joe Madu at gmail.com, SIRJOEMADU@gmail.com. You can also reach me at director at 360wisemedia.com. Okay. You can also link in Google, but the most important thing is reaching and linking and connecting must be purposeful.
Yeah.
Must be purposeful, because this is how we give respect to time and give respect to our existence.
Definitely. So as you guys heard, if you guys would like to reach out to Joe, just feel free to let me know. We can make it happen. And I'd like to thank you for coming on the Influence Show today, Sir Joe.
I thank you more for having me. And how could I say no to you? Because I think you might have to. You probably would use the power of the internet to lambast me or to turn me into a different thing altogether. But I commend you as a leader of the youth, as a teenager with exceptional ability, and I thank you so much. And as we speak right now, my boss man, Mr. Alexander, the CEO of 360 Wise Media, is calling, and I'm going to brief him on this. So God bless you, and thank you so much.
I'd also like to say a huge thank you to you guys for sticking to the end. If you guys have any questions, as always, please do feel free to contact myself. And same for Sir Joe, just feel free to contact myself if we can make that possible. Cannot wait to see you guys on the next interview, as we are going to be starting a brand new series once again, which is called I'm Curious to T7, where we answer your guys' questions and make them as direct as possible to just help you guys when it comes to piecing and just putting the pieces together when it comes to putting together that roadmap for you guys. So I cannot wait to get started on that. As always, that will be happening in October, so stay on the lookout for that. That's it from me, and I'll see you next time.